Does that make sense?
It does, and 100% of the doubling is coming from the expansion and maintenance.
That's correct.
From last year's proposal.
That's correct.
And that, again, say the number again, that's amounted to.
It's gone from about 300,000 to 600,000
So 300,000 additional from that fund
a month.
a
Yes.
month since slightly less than
Since
a year
last
ago.
July.
Okay.
All right.
Does that answer?
I would say,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, we're very careful not to tie personnel up in that, because if the housing market goes back down, that fund goes down accordingly, and then we have people that we don't know what to do with.
Thank you, Director Carter. And I'll just say it is definitely a goal of mine and the members of this committee, just to make sure that our WMAs are being utilized as much as they possibly can for every user group possible, because obviously that means more revenue for the agency. And the Property and Infrastructure Committee probably will be meeting by themselves and try to talk some more about it. But thank you, Director Carter.
Yes, sir.
Is that it? All right. All right, members, is there any further discussion? We're at the conclusion of a robust 2 days of visits.
Have we got to update this meeting on Pools Knob, where we are on that?
I think that'd be great. Actually, do you want to go back into your committee? Because that's where that lands, and
Sure.
I'll let you handle that.
Go ahead, Director Carter.
Is McKinney still here? Is he buzzed? Well, I'll do the best I can on this. The last time we went through, we were looking at whether or not the U.S. Corps of Engineers would allow us to go in and redo the pond, and whether or not we would have to go through mitigation. And we thought we had a green light that was starting to get greener, but it turned red. And they told us that, no, you will have to mitigate, and you'll have to mitigate at the point of 4 to 1. So long story short, that put us into trying to figure out where we could find mitigation properties if we go forward. We went through the same company that we contract with to do wetlands delineation, looked at one of the areas that we have to see if we could utilize one of our properties to do the delineation as a wetland. But that area that we looked at, long story short, no, we could not do that one. So we're still trying to find a place to see if we can mitigate. And if we can, if we have to buy credits, it's very expensive. It would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to buy the mitigation property if we have to mitigate totally through a third party. So we're looking at areas that we can mitigate on our property if we can find one in the same area. Then we had to do for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service the mitigation on whether or not bats were present. Our guys went out, they could start that on May the 15th. They've done it and they've completed it. Don't have all the information back yet to know if there are bats there, and if we remove those trees, we'll have to mitigate for that as well. The Corps has told us that we would not be able to pump that pond, so we'll have to find a water source that will move from the lake up there to it. So it's going forward as quickly as it can go forward, but that's where we are, is trying to find out where we are in that plan. We did make all the changes on the crops, and the crops have all gone forward with the plan that we put out to you earlier, and all that's accomplished.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yeah, I just would like you to elaborate on what you're mitigating and why. I mean, I'm trying to catch up to speed, so if you don't mind, could you explain that?
One of the areas that we utilize on Pool Knob is for retriever trials, and we have a couple of ponds on there. The primary pond that's utilized does not hold water very well, and over the years has silted in and gone in until it's not deep enough, and in a lot of the areas, and we need to reshape the pond and go put that back together. Because the Corps considers it waters of the United States, and because it's on Corps property, this is one of those areas we don't own, but that we lease from the Corps of Engineers. Like any other thing you do that they look at as destroying a wetland, even though it's a wetland now and it'll be a wetland when we get done, under their definition, we're going to have to mitigate those acres at 4 to 1. So whatever size the pond is, which I think's right at an acre and a half or something like that. Anyway, they're telling us that we'll probably have to mitigate up to 10 acres. And credits right now are, I think, $43,000 an acre. or credit.
And by mitigate, you mean find 10 other acres of wetland to create prior to adjusting the pond? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
what you're, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That sure does sound like a whole, I mean, all we really need to do over there is go in and reshape some existing points. You know, if it goes dry in the very part of the summer, we usually have water from the lakes keeping it full. When it goes down, you know, when the lake falls down in the fall, it falls out. If we could just go in and reshape the points, we're talking about probably doing less than a quarter of acre of work in there. I think we ought to go back and revisit it on a very smaller scale instead of going out for the, I think that's a direction we ought to ask the agency to look at.
We submitted to the Corps what we thought we'd have to do. We can certainly retry to see if, it's still gonna be a mitigation issue either way, but we can go back to them and say, if we do this much less, what do you think?
Okay. Any other thoughts?
How, I'm little ignorant about this, I don't know what you're trying to do to the lake, but if it's a lake and it's gonna be a lake when you get finished, why do we have to mitigate? We're not destroying any wetlands, it doesn't seem to me.
I don't mean this like it's gonna sound, it really doesn't matter. If it fits the definition of waters of the United States under the federal code, and it's an existing wetland, if you go in and redo something to that wetland, even though it'll be a wetland when you get done, because you're destroying that part of it to recreate something else, they consider that as loss.
We couldn't expand that particular lake to make it the same size or bigger while you do the contour work or whatever. I mean,
Part of that is
strange
making
to
it,
me. Okay. Well, that answers that question, because there's nothing common sense about that group.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Director Carter.
With that, I want to check with Director Carter and see if we have any additional information.
I don't, but I failed to say thanks to Bryan College, and I should have done that earlier. Jeanette has told me every step of the way, they have been fantastic to work with, and we'll make sure that they know that when we leave, but I just wanted to publicly say that.
Absolutely. I could not agree more, Director Carter. And again, to the team at the agency, Danette, oh my goodness, you've had your hands full with us. It's not just agency commission meeting stuff. It's being social chairman. We get the great idea and get credit for it, and you're doing all the work. And so I just cannot thank you enough for your effort and hard work, and Ed and the whole senior management team's leadership. Region 3 team, oh my goodness, y'all have been awesome. It's been really lovely getting to know this area better, and really appreciate our partners at Bryan College. I'd never been on this campus before and actually serve on the Independent Colleges and Universities Board. So it's been really exciting to be here and get to know who the #1 fishing team in the country is, and that's been really exciting. So unless there is an objection, Commissioner Sanders, I really hope you'll come back. I really do, and look forward to serving with you, but I'm pretty pleased. Come back to our next meeting, okay?
I promise I will, and I would invite you back to District 4 anytime you want to come.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, thanks, everyone, and without objection, then we are adjourned.